Hare Krishna. So we have now come to the second last verse of this very auspicious book, Sri Upadesh Amrita. We can Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So let's chant this together. Oh, one line responsively. Nana Shasha Vicharanaika Nipuno Sadharma Samstavago. Lokanam hitakarino tribhuvane manyo sharanyakaro. Radha Krishna Padara Vinda Bhajana Nandina Mataliko. Vande Rupa Sanatana Rago Yugo Shri Jiva Gopalago. Read.
Are very expert in scrutinizing these categories with the aim of establishing religious principles for the benefit of all human beings. Thus, they honor all the three worlds and are worth taking shelter because they absorb the multiple gopis and are gained to the transcendent loving souls of Radha and Krishna.
Sri Sat Goswami Prabhu's Ki Jai. Text 10. Kami Parito Harer Priyataya Vyaktim Yajurjaninas. Tebhyam Jnana Vimukta Bhakti Parama Premaika Nishtastata. Tebhyasta Pashupala Pankajadritas Tabhyopi Saradika. Preshta Tadvad Giham Tadiya Sarasi Tam Nasrayet Kakriti. In the Shastra, translation by Srila Prabhupada, in the Shastra, it is said that of all types of fruitive workers, he who is advanced in knowledge of higher values of life is favored by the Supreme Lord Hari. Out of many such people who are advanced in knowledge, one who is practically liberated by virtue of his knowledge may take to devotional service. He is superior to others. However, one who has actually attained prema, pure love of Krishna, is superior to him. The gopis are exalted above all the advanced devotees because they are always totally dependent upon Krishna, the transcendental cowherd boy. Among the gopis, Srimati Radharani is the most dear to Krishna. Her Kund is profoundly dear to Lord Krishna as this most beloved of the gopis, as is this most beloved of the gopis. Who then will not reside at Radhakund and in a spiritual body surcharged with ecstatic devotional feelings, render loving service to the divine couple Sri Sri Radha Govinda, who perform their Astakalya Leela, their eternal eightfold daily pastimes. Indeed, those who execute devotional service on the banks of Radha Kund are the most fortunate people in the universe. Where are you going for your next holiday? So, so this verse is actually explaining um, a hierarchy of different practitioners of the Lord. The previous verse had described a hierarchy of holy places. Okay, so they told us how there's Mathura, and higher than Mathura is we shall ask you to read it loud and clear. The verse 9.
The holy translation.
The one in bold print is the verse, yeah. Dark.
The holy place known as Mathura is spiritually superior to the transcendental world because the Lord appeared there. Superior to Mathura Puri is the transcendental forest of Vrindavan because of Krishna's last Leela pastime. And superior to the forest of Vrindavan is Govardhana Hill. It was raised by the divine hand of Sri Krishna, was the site of his various loving pastimes. And above all, the super excellent Sri Radha Kunda stands supreme, for it is overflooded with the ambrosial nectarian prema, Lord of the Lord of Gokula, Sri Krishna. Where then is that intelligent person who is unwilling to serve the divine Radha Kunda, which is situated at the foot of Govardhan Hill?
So here we just heard in this text 9 from last week's class that there's a hierarchy of places. Um, so the hierarchy of things normally indicate superiority, right? So when you have a graph leading upwards like that with a hierarchy, it shows that there is a authorized source of there's authority that's indicating one is lower than the other. So in today's verse, we came across a different hierarchy on the journey, on one's spiritual journey or one's existence in the material world starts on a certain platform, and as one becomes enlightened, there is a definitive hierarchy. So, one of our predecessor acharyas, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, has explained or advised that on every Ekadashi, like today is Ekadashi, on every Ekadashi, which comes how often? Every fortnight, right? Every 2 weeks, one should do an inventory of oneself. So one should do an inventory to see how one is making progress. Is one on the fast route to nowhere? Or it's a staircase to nowhere, right? Wherever you start, it'll take you nowhere, right? You can be climbing the steps forever and ever, but you're nowhere. So sometimes one's journey or one's existence becomes governed by a sort of dullness that keeps you stagnated on the spot. And even though you're active in so many different ways, it is like, being trapped in a hamster ring. You're running fast, you're running on the spot, and you're getting nowhere, in other words. So, an inventory of one's spiritual life should be taken as advised by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So, here in this text 10, the hierarchy explains that the eternal Gopi associates in Radha Kund are actually the highest beings that you could ever get. So, this is actually a hierarchy of consciousness also. So Srimati Radharani, amidst that group of gopis, Srimati Radharani is the topmost. Then you get the eternal associates at Govardhan Hill, then the associates of Vrindavan, then Mathura Mandal associates, then the associates in Vaikunta. Then you get the three types of devotees, the Uttam, Madhyam, and Kanishta. And then you get the Jnani, Karmi, Vikarmis. So, Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport to the Chaitanya Chaitamrita Madhya Leela. Read for us loud and clear, Sita.
His holy name owes devotional service. One day he advanced religiously, but if he is not friendly with devotional service, he has very little popular on his nonsense on the platform. Even a New York Times reports angels who were such an apparent as the way he was from spiritual, while the stories of Mount Street is not consistent to that outfit. It was that on street relating philosophy of the work on street relating philosophy.
Very good. So, the highest we said is Srimati Radharani. So, what is it that makes Srimati Radharani and the gopis the highest? So, Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport that highest of all, when we say that Srimati Radharani is the highest, it means that her position cannot be excelled by anyone. There's no vacancy to take the position of Radharani or to exceed higher. Even Krishna cannot understand the depth of her feelings. In the Chaitanya Mangala, there is an account of how when Krishna's feet is being bathed, he cannot understand how the devotee, the goddess of fortune, and Srimati Radharani, when they serve his feet, they get so much of ecstasy. So he wants to taste that ecstasy because he cannot understand it. He's a possessor of all opulences, but this opulence he does not have. He cannot understand. And in order to experience that, he comes as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, embracing the mood of Radha, Krishna, who's embracing the mood of Radha. That means the mood of extreme and pure devotion. So, the story of Radhakund is that Krishna killed the bull demon Aristasura. And when Krishna killed the bull demon Aristasura, the gopis then said, "We do not want to have anything to do with you because you are a sinner. You have killed a bull." So Krishna asked, how must I atone for this? So then they said, "You have to go on pilgrimage and take bath in all of the holy rivers, because the potency of the water, even a drop of water from the holy river, is so magnificent that it can purify one of so much accumulated karma or sins." So when Krishna heard the gopis rebuke him in such a way, he decided to call all of the holy rivers. And they came. All the personification of the holy rivers came and said, "My Lord, how can we serve you?" And then they made this kund called Shama Kund, right? Where Krishna could enter and take his bath. And last week you heard how Shamakund is actually the five Pandavas stand around Shamakund, and they actually are there eternally witnessing the pastimes that Krishna is still performing there. So what happened was that Radharani and the gopis, then Krishna told the gopis, you people have become contaminated because y'all have taken the side of an asura, a demon. And because you'll have taken the side of an asura, you all have to atone. So you all have to go take bath in all the holy rivers. So Radharani took her bangles, she broke it, and she started to dig. The gopis followed suit. Srimati Radharani's friends are actually a few million gopis. So they started to dig. And when they started what's known as Kund, right? Made by their Kankan, by their bangles, they started to dig. And then at Manasi Ganga, another pastime took place. Manasi Ganga is a little walk away from Radhakund. All the holy rivers had come there. So the gopis had decided they'd make a sort of relay all the way to Manasi Ganga, and they can bring the waters in this manner, passing it on. And they were endeavoring so much that their perspiration started to ooze from their transcendental bodies. And Krishna, out of his love for his devotees, does not want to see them in such a situation. So he desired that the Kunds come and help them. And then when all of the holy Kunds came and asked Srimati Radharani, please allow us to serve you. You, our goddess, can we please, it will make our life worthy if you allow us, if you accept the service from us. So that's how this Radha Kund came about. And it is explained that this Kund, Krishna gave a benediction to Srimati Radharani at that point in time. He said, your Kund would be even more popular than my Kund. And up until today, you hear people, they say, okay, we're going to Radha Kund. No one says we're going to Shama Kund, although it's just adjacent. Even though when they go to Radha Kund, they will go take, some bath in Shama Kund as well. But Radha Kund is the more popular of, everybody speaks of Radha Kund in Vrindavan. So her Kund is most exalted place because you'll hear more about it next week. Those who execute devotional service on the banks of Radha Kund are the most exalted persons. So it's explained on the banks of Radha Kund, there's actually a golden lotus, right? And in the whirl of that lotus, Srimati Radharani and Krishna enjoy. And all the 1,000-petal golden lotus has got all of the other sakis and manjaris all around surrounding them. So when the veil of material contamination is lifted from our vision, we'll be able to perceive these pastimes when we go there. Now, if you go, you may only see the monkeys or, the water, etc. But this kund has got so much of potency. And then the progressive devotees must take shelter there and execute devotional service throughout their life. This is Rupa Goswami's conclusion. So, what indeed is Radha Kund? Is it a physical place? Excuse me. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj explains, and you'll hear about it in next week's class, that Radha Kund is actually a state of one's consciousness, right? That consciousness is built on the determination one has to hear. He said, even if you are at Radha Kund and you do not have the greed or the lobha to hear transcendental subject matters, if it's not prioritized in our existence, then the Radha Kund consciousness cannot be there. So this gopis in Radha Kund that are Radharani's associates, They are known as the most exalted devotees who have only the desire to serve Krishna with no thought, no consideration of getting any remuneration for their services. They're not there to do a business deal with Krishna. That I'm serving you for so long, therefore, please don't let this happen to me, or don't let me encounter this situation or that situation. Come what may, even Srimati Radharani says, you, even if you crush me in your embrace or make me broken-hearted by not being present before me, you will always be my worshipful Lord unconditionally. Right? Of what deep love must one have to make such a statement? Right? And it's the 8th verse that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wrote in the Shishashtakam, which is the original prayer of the Srimati Radharani, the topmost of the gopis. Actually, they are so absorbed in service of Krishna that they cannot forget him, right? Krishna is born where? Where is Krishna born? Huh? You can reply. You? Where? Mathura. Krishna is born in Mathura and Vrindavan, as Prabhu said, right? And simultaneously. So you get Vrajendra Nanda Krishna, Vrindavan Krishna, who is the son of Mother Yasoda, who's born to Mother Yasoda. Mother Yasoda gives birth to 2 children, a boy and a girl. And she becomes so exhausted that she falls asleep. So when Vasudev brings, you know the story, right? When Vasudev is told by the voice in the sky to please take Krishna to Vrindavan, to Nanda Maharaj's house, he is taking Vasudev Krishna. So he takes Vasudev Krishna. Now his consciousness is Vasudev consciousness, right? He's imbued with awe and reverence in service to Krishna. Nanda Maharaj and Mother Yasoda, their love is beyond that, that they chastise Krishna when it's needed. So when Vasudev brings his baby that appeared in the prison house of Kamsa to Mother Yasoda, that Vasudev Krishna merges into Rajendra Nandan Krishna. And he takes the baby girl. He takes the baby girl, who then flies off from Kamsa's end and says, "You fool, the person who is meant to kill you has taken birth somewhere else." Right? So now, when this happens, so in Mathura, when Krishna goes after, I think about 7 years of age or whatever, to kill Kamsa, who goes? Vasudev Krishna goes, because Krishna's promise to Srimati Radharani is that he will never leave Vrindavan. So he hides, he becomes sort of unmanifest, he hides, right? By his Yogamaya potency, nobody can perceive him anymore in Vrindavan for his own pleasure pastimes. So he gets pleasure now seeing the love of the gopis in Vipralamba Seva. Vipralamba Seva is not like absence, out of sight, out of mind. Rather, its absence makes the heart grow fonder for the gopis. When Krishna goes away, their love for him becomes how you say, so condensed, so strong, so concentrated, that they cannot think of anything else. When they walk in the forest, it's explained, and they see a creeper bent over, they will speak to the creeper. You see, one time when Krishna left and went to Mathura, Srimati Radharani was bitten by the snake of separation, that her body became so feverish, suffering in separation, right, of her beloved Krishna, that she fainted. And her chief friend, Lalita Devi, she was all of them were feeling so much Vipralamba Seva for Krishna, so much separation, service in separation, that she, saw one swan in Radhakund, in a lake, right? Maybe on by the Yamuna or wherever. She saw a swan, and she started to glorify the swan. And she started to say that you will be a befitting messenger. So she starts to speak her heart out to the swan to carry their message of deep love and separation that they're feeling towards Krishna. So she speaks to this transcendental swan. Srila Rupa Goswami, the author of this book, has also written another book, Hansa Dutta. So this book has got the entire conversation of Lalita Devi with the swan, and how this swan then takes the message to Krishna in Mathura. And Krishna then, being so affected by the love of these topmost servants of his, what he does is he thinks, who will be the befitting messenger to take my message to the Vrajavasis? Who in Mathura would be able to actually go and see my topmost devotees? And one name comes to mind, and that is who? Uddhava. Vasudev's brother's son, Uddhava, is Krishna's cousin. He has got the bluish complexion like Krishna. And he is very famous in Mathura for his service to the residents of Mathura. So you gain favor of Krishna if you serve the servants of Krishna. So Uddhava, he was endeared to Krishna because he used to counsel anyone in trouble, right? All the Mathura Vasis, whenever they were a little disturbed, they came to Uddhava. And Uddhava became so famous for his sensitivity in how he dealt with each situation. So Krishna concluded that Uddhava would be the most befitting servant, a messenger, to take the message to the gopis and the Brajavasis, because it is so sensitive that their message is imbued with all of their suffering. The person who delivers my message must be sensitive to that and know how to break it to them gently, so to speak. Is the aircon too warm? Hmm? You're falling asleep? So what happens is Uddhava goes to Vrindavan, and he is actually the servant. He is the disciple of Brihaspati. Brihaspati is learned in everything besides Vrajaprem. So he teaches Uddhava everything. Uddhava is proficient in every subject matter besides Vraj Prem. So Krishna, out of his kindness and his mercy and compassion, he lets Uddhav go and learn in the classroom of Vraj. So Krishna gives Uddhava directions of how to go there. He tells him the exact route that he traversed on when he came to meet Kamsa. And he tells him, you go here, this is the tree where I sat, and this is what I did here, and this is where the chariot stopped, etc., etc., etc. And then you reach Nandagram, which is like 90 kilometers away. And when you reach Nandagram, meet my mother and father, and please, with all gentleness, appease their hearts that is being torn apart in separation. And when Uddhava goes there, then he carries this message, and when you hear these conversations from the books of Srila Rupa Goswami and other Goswamis, you'll realize that actually this love is so unparalleled. It's love in its most purest form. And the gopis, whatever they see, when they see the grass bending, then they ask the grass, um, did the son of Nanda Maharaj acknowledge your obeisances? You know, did he stop at this tree and rest his transcendental hand? Did you feel faint when you saw the outstanding beauty of his nose? Or when you smelt the scent from the sweet scent from his transcendental body? So every creeper, are you also wilting in separation from him? They see everything in relation to Krishna and how they're feeling uh, towards Krishna. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he claimed that their mood is actually the highest, and that their vipralamba or their service in separation is actually better than serving directly. Because when you serve Krishna directly, he's there, you're thinking about him, you're obliged to serve him, you think about him. When he's not there, you have the option of being absorbed in other things. Isn't that so? But even though you have that option, because he's not physically present, if still you negate all else from your consciousness and mind and you live in separation, like when Krishna left Vrindavan and went to Mathura, the Vrajabasis, they, like life went out of their body. They stopped cleaning their houses, they stopped churning yogurt, right? They stopped everything. They were totally lifeless. The only thing they were waiting for was Krishna's return to Vrindavan. And it's explained that the villagers from neighboring villages, they would bring yogurt and butter to these Brajabasis to keep them alive, right? So their love in separation was so high that Krishna was so truly affected by it. And when Uddhava comes with his message, and he hears, first when he meets Nanda Maharaj and Mother Yasoda, he is convinced in his mind and heart and soul that there is no higher love than Mother Yasoda and Nanda Maharaj's love for Krishna. Because Nanda Maharaj, he says, Krishna, he swallowed the forest fire. When Indra sent his destructive Samvartika clouds, Krishna rescued us from death because he picked up the Govardhan hill. Will he now save us from the death of separation from him? And they speak of and then he starts to speak of Krishna's beauty. The beauty of Krishna's nose is compared to what? A sesame flower, right? If you Google a sesame flower, sesame seeds, the plant has got a flower. So that flower is narrow and long, and it just has a gentle bubble at the end, right? So Krishna has this perfect nose. He has, and every bit of his body has got a separate type of scent. For example, the feet from his, the smell from his lotus feet smells like camphor, right? So when they go in separation, when Krishna's not there, the way they actually keep themselves alive is by remembering his pastimes. So you got a picture of the sesame flower? Okay. And so when they walk in the Vrindavan forest, they see the dust, the footprints of Krishna there. And then yeah, there's another yellow one. It has fits the description nicely. So then, after the Raja Gopis, in the verse is explaining in the hierarchy that the bhaktas or the devotees of the Lord, they are they are next. And why are these bhaktas? Let's see, yeah, yeah. So you can just show the devotees. It's much like a smaller version of a pumpkin flower, right? Yeah. So the devotees of the Lord, because they perform devotional service according to regulative principles, they may come to the spontaneous platform following Narad Muni, Sanatan, Shanak, and they may develop pure love of God. So the devotees of the Lord, they have given up so much and they are now in a position to reach the supreme goal. They're on the right track. They're giving up everything. They're dedicating themselves to Krishna, and thereby they are endeared to Krishna. Then you get the next The next type of people are the Gyanis. The Gyanis are philosophers who have come to the platform of knowing Atma Tattva. So they understand that you're not the body, you're the soul is eternal, the body is temporary. They understand all of this, right? The Gyanis. Then they know fruitive activities bind them in rebirth. So they have this knowledge. They're not involved in fruitive activities. They are people who are superior to the karmis. Unless they come to devotional service, they are still considered to be ignorance. So they can know everything, all right, but still they won't have satisfaction at heart. So 96% of the Vedas may be known by these jnanis, but that 96% of the Vedas is karma kanda. A jnani may know all of the rituals. They may know all of the Puranas, and all of the rituals the Puranas explain. But they're not superior to the devotees of the Lord. A new bhakta, like Prabhupada said, a new bhakta engaged in service to the deity according to regulative principles is higher than a jnani who has got so much of knowledge of volumes and volumes of books. Why? Because if with all of that knowledge, if the person does not come to devotional service, then all that knowledge is a row of 0, 0, 0, 0, because number one is not in front. There's no value. Those who come to devotional service and serve are very fortunate. Krishna explains after millions and millions of births, one may come to the platform of devotional service. That devotional service is so pure, it is so special, it's so purifying, it's such a privilege, right? That's why we pray to Srimati Tulsi Maharani in the mornings. Please give me the privilege of devotional service. Because devotional service is not something that Krishna just make a tick in under my name. I'm doing this, you know who I am. No, no. Devotional service is there for us to engage in, to come to that same platform of selflessness. So just now we'll come across how Prabhupada explains that um, Prabhupada explains in the purport, actually in the beginning of the purport of this verse, at the present moment, almost everyone is engaged in some kind of fruitive activity. Those who are desirous of gaining material profits by working are called karmis, or fruitive workers. All living entities within this material world have come under the spell of Maya. This is described in the Vishnu Purana. So, Srila Prabhupada explains that Krishna's energies are in three categories. You get the Antaranga Shakti, which is his divine energy. Then you get the marginal energy known as Tatashta Shakti. And then you get Bahiranga Shakti, which is his material energy. Where do you think we fall? Material energy. No, actually, we are marginal because we have Marginal means like you're sitting on a fence. You can choose to be that side or this side. So the living entities are known as marginal because he has given us independence, that we can choose that we want to be part of the spiritual energy or the material energy. So the fruitive workers, the gyanis who do not come to devotional service, and the vikarmis and the karmis, they are all in the category of falling under, they choose to be under the material shelter. Then the devotees, the gopis and Srimati Radharani are all in the spiritual antaranga shakti. So the living entity is marginal. That means we have a choice whether we want to be on a fast route to nowhere or we want to make progress, right? And we act accordingly. So then the second last category is the karmis, right? A person, so who is a karmi? A karmi acts according to Vedic knowledge and are very dear to Lord Krishna, right? Krishna explains that the karmi is dear to him. Why? Because they are better than the vikarmis. They're superior to the vikarmis. Their attachment to fruitive activities ensures rebirth. They will go to higher destination but will return to Mrityu Loka. So Prabhupada explains in the purport that these karmis are very dear to him. Why? Because they understand that they should live their life according to the Vedic regulations. They know that. So when one hears the word regulations of scripture, it seems so restrictive. However, an analogy can be given to understand the benefit of following the regulative principles of devotional service as that of a mother who embraces a child. So, a mother may hold a child tightly, and the child may try to free him or herself from the mother's tight embrace, not understanding that the child may even kick, scream, and cry to free himself, not understanding that the mother's embrace, although it appears restrictive, is for protection. Similarly, when you hear the word regulative principles of devotional service, and there's 64 rules in the Nectar of Devotion we'll come across. There's so many rules that one has to abide by. Bhagavad Gita is explaining our diet. The Nectar of Instruction explained our diet, how restrictive it should be so that it helps the consciousness to rise higher, etc., etc., etc. What to speak of behavior patterns and cleanliness and all other etiquettes, right, that are included. Now, those things are there simply to protect us. They're known as the regulative principles of freedom, right? Because these are the principles that will save us, just as a mother is trying to save a child from danger by keeping the child in its tight embrace. Similarly, these principles that the mother, our supreme mother, the Vedas, is giving us is to embrace, is to keep us safe in her embrace. So then the karmis, they actually have by their understanding and their chosen practices, although limited, they can progress all the way up. Prabhupada explains to the moon, planet, and beyond. Right? And then what keeps them going higher? It's because they perform Vedic ritualistic sacrifices under a bona fide priest, and then they gain piety. And that piety, Prabhupada explains, will take them higher and higher and higher. However, that piety is temporary. And because of its temporary nature, when it's exhausted, they fall back down to Mrityu Loka or Earth planet. So when piety is thus exhausted, even if they take a high birth in the material circumstance, It is a position of great danger. The greatest danger any devotee faces is falling back in the species, right? In the samsara, falling back into the chain of um, repeated birth and death in 8,400,000 species of living entities. So then, the last category, the lowest category of people, of consciousness, is that of a vikarmi. A vikarmi is a person who acts without guidance of Vedic knowledge. That is the position, and that position is not appreciated by saintly persons, Prabhupada explains in the purport, because they risk being degraded to the lowest species of animals, plants, or trees, Prabhupada explains. So when you don't follow the regulative, the advice that the Vedas is giving, the mother of the Vedas is giving, what happens is that a destination lower on the rung is guaranteed, plant, animal, birth. So, so every Ekadashi, one has to see, am I moving in the wrong direction, or am I making even a small endeavor to climb up the ladder? So that is basically the purport of this verse, where Prabhupada is explaining all of these points of how consciousness can raise higher and higher. Does anyone have any questions, comments? Uddhav Gita. Mhm. Uh-huh. Uddhav Gita, just Uddhav Gita is the song that is the message that Krishna sends via Uddhava to the gopis. You should read it. It's a very nice compilation of um, Uddhava's school of knowledge, like how Arjuna one time, he asked Krishna, he said, my dear Lord Krishna, um, you always speak of how the Vraja gopis and their devotion is topmost. How will I? Can you explain to me? You've explained the Bhagavad Gita. Now explain to me how to understand this Vraja Prem, the love of the residents of Vrindavan. So at that time, Krishna told him, my dear Arjuna, you are my very dear friend. There's no doubt about that. But for you to understand Vraja Prem, you have to enter into Vraja Prem. Prabhupada gives the analogy of a bottle of honey. He can tell you everything about the honey on the label of the bottle. But unless you don't open the bottle, taste the honey for yourself, you'll not know the true taste of honey. Today is Ekadashi. We don't have honey the day before Ekadashi or on Ekadashi day, incidentally, right? According to Hari Bhakti Vilas, there's a verse that says that. So what happens is Arjuna, he's so eager to know about this Vraja Prem, and Krishna's telling him, I can't tell you about it, you got to experience it for yourself. So he begs Krishna, and Krishna says, okay, Arjun, do this. Go to Mother Parvati and tell her what you want, and she will help you. Tell her I sent you to her, and she will help you. So Parvati then tells Arjuna, go and take birth in a certain lake. So Arjuna goes, he takes bath in a certain lake, and then he becomes eligible to meet the gopis. So some gopis come and they take him and they say, okay, now you come with us and you take bath in another kund, right? So they take him to a special kund. He takes his bath there. And when he comes out of the kund, he can remember nothing about his existence of Arjuna, fighting on the battlefield, etc. He is now Arjunia. right? He's the female version of Arjun. Yeah, you know how you get Paresh, Pareshni, you get, a female version of every name. So Arjuna is now Arjunia. So Arjunia then is taken by these gopis in a female body to Srimati Radharani. And when he goes there, he witnesses the love of the devotees of Srimati Radharani and the gopis and in their talks about Krishna, right? And as he witnesses this, and his heart becomes so swollen with love for Krishna himself, because it's sort of it's contagious. And then after some time, they tell him, okay, it's time for you to go back because Krishna has other service for you. Because his rasa is to be Krishna's eternal friend. And then they take him to retrace his steps to get back as Arjuna, taking bath in those same kunds, etc. And then he becomes Arjuna. So this understanding of Raja Prem is so um, is so unique that Srila Rupa Goswami explains to us time and time again that first you absorb the rules and regulations, the sadhana bhakti, you practice it nicely, hear and chant nicely with determination, and then you get natural awakening of spontaneous devotion in the heart. And that spontaneous devotion is then called Raganuga Bhakti, right? And that leads you to the topmost platform. So, if that is the goal, we have a hierarchy that Srila Rupa Goswami is explaining of the different consciousness. On the bottom rung, Vikarmi. What is Vikarmi? Vikarmi is someone who lives without any regard for Vedic rules and regulations. After the Vikarmi comes the Karmi. The Karmi is dear to Lord Krishna because he knows, right? But he's still engaged in his downfall is still engaged in fruitive activities. I'll fast today, I'll observe Ekadashi, because if I observe this Ekadashi, what is my fruitive result? Is that okay, 10 generations of my family will get so much of wealth, etc., 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 right? I'll accrue so much of piety as equivalent to giving so many cows in charity, things like that, right? So they observes the Vedic rules and regulations for fruitive result, not just because Krishna wants it's for Krishna's pleasure and my purification. I'm happy to do it, which would be the correct consciousness. So you get Vikarmi, Karmi. After that, you get the Jnani. The Jnani is a person who has knowledge, theoretical knowledge, textbook knowledge, armchair philosopher, right? Knows everything but can't practice. Prabhupada uses the term armchair philosopher, that a person can sit, speak from, so quote all the Vedas from here, there, everywhere, but not according to Lord Chaitanya in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. He says that a preacher's prachar and achar must be the same. That means his activities, his action, and what he speaks must be one. Like when you hear Hari Sari Prabhu speak about Srila Prabhupada, says Prabhupada was a walking Bhagavat. He always starts his katha about Prabhupada. Says Prabhupada is a walking Bhagavat. Prabhupada instructed him to stay with him 24 hours. And he said there was never a moment where Prabhupada was doing something other than what he was preaching. He was always the same person. He didn't have to put on one cap when he was in his room, and when a visitor came in, put on another cap. He was just the way he was, a walking Bhagavat, right? And Acharya means one who who teaches by example. So in order to progress in this progression of consciousness up to Radha Bhakti, right? One has to give up being a Vikarmi, Kami, a Gyani, a Kanishta Bhakta, a Madhya Bhakta, Uttam Bhakta, and then we said was all the residents in the progression of the hierarchy of the places. So that consciousness has to be escalated like that. And that can only happen by the association of one in that consciousness. And that is why we have to read and take shelter of the books. If we take shelter of our minds and each other, we may not progress, right? But if we take shelter of the books, that's why Krishna himself says, Machita Matgata Prana Bodha Yanta Parasparam. When my devotees come together, they inquire and speak about the knowledge of himself and devotion to himself as enunciated in these books. That's why Prabhupada stressed so much. Read these books, study them scrutinizingly, because all the authors of these books, the people who give us this knowledge, they already in Rajaprem. So what they are doing is they're giving us the rope to progress up, to pull us out of this ocean of material existence that we're so attached to being in. We're so conditioned to thinking is our natural place when in actual fact it's not. So when they do that, it behooves an intelligent person to take the rope, to open the pages and embrace this knowledge and then progress. So if you today sit and you evaluate yourself this Ekadashi, and next Ekadashi, would have at least chanted some extra rounds. You would have made some progress, right? Whether it is, opening a book for 5 minutes a day, reading something and absorbing that, meditating on that. Small steps lead to bigger things in life, right? Do we have any further questions?
Whatever is in Bhagavad Gita,
Is in
Buddha Bhagavad want to be the same philosophy.
In the purport to the last verse of Bhagavad Gita in my class on Radha Astami last year, I pointed out this fact that actually the purport ends that one should take shelter of the Ladini Shakti, right? The higher Shakti. Who is Ladini Shakti? Srimati Radharani. So the whole Bhagavad Gita starts from giving up my sons and the sons of Pandu, the I and my false proprietorship, mamata, right? Giving up all that false ego, understanding the philosophy as Krishna presents it to Arjuna on our behalf, and coming to the point of taking shelter of Srimati Radharani. So it's how we read the Bhagavad Gita. Sometimes we may think, okay, this is just the ABC, but we can't see deeper. Then when we go to the Srimad Bhagavatam, say, what's this long verse in the beginning glorifying Krishna like this? Can I just like skip it and go to, deeper things? It's material conditioning will urge us to do that. But Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Maharaj lectured on that verse for an entire month every day. Yeah. I said the Bhagavatam. So that verse is so important. Then when we finish the Bhagavatam, we think, oh, how come, we are Gaudiya Vaishnavas, and the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, nothing about Radharani is in the Bhagavatam, or only one time, there's uh, her name indirectly mentioned. You go to the CC, Prabhupada explains such intimate things over there about Srimati Radharani, then it's like with limited knowledge, we'll say, okay, ISKCON's not giving me all of this knowledge. Prabhupada didn't give me all this knowledge. Sometimes people of limited vision think like that. But everything is there. It's how we perceive it. The nectar of devotion is giving such high knowledge, right, of Gopi Bhav, etc. But as you read it, if you read it initially, you may just be impressed with the 64 rules that you have to follow. You may not be able to perceive things deeper. As you progress deeper, you see, spiritual intellect is required to assimilate spiritual subject matters. And thereby, the chanting of Hare Krishna is important because the chanting then purifies the intelligence Nishingananda Prabhu oftentimes tells the story of one of his very close friends who picked up the Bhagavad Gita, started to read it, and never made sense of anything he was reading. And then he got the idea that he should first concentrate on chanting 16 rounds. So for a few months, he chanted his 16 rounds. He got to the point of chanting 16 rounds. Then he said, maybe now I can reach for the Bhagavad Gita. And when he opened the Bhagavad Gita, he got a clearer perception of what was within those pages. And then, few years later, now if you speak to him, he can quote verses. He's like such a, he's so proficient in the knowledge of the Gita that he can convince other people to become devotees. So there's a progression of our consciousness, and we have to endeavor with patience, yet with enthusiasm. So Bhagavad Gita has got the depth of knowledge, but we'll perceive it differently as we also progress. But Uddhav Gita is a lovely, lovely read. Must read it. Anything else? Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Upadesh Amrita ki jai, Nitai